Hello, this is Michael Finn, exercise and lifestyle coach. I just kind of always have to start that way. It just rolls off my tongue because of all the videos I've been making. All right, so this is for the Blackhawks. So this is going to be as brief as I can make it about our standard defense, our positions, and what we are responsible for so that we are all clear and we understand what everybody else is supposed to be responsible for, as well as when we bounce around, because people play multiple positions. And this year, probably more than most, we might be bouncing around more depending upon who we are playing. Because like some teams like the Indy Thunder just pound the middle, and some teams like the Edge pound the left field and things like that. So anyway, so we might be making, changes and things like that, but I wanted to go over this so that we are all very clear. So hang with me and pay attention, especially to the positions that are important to you. So number one, this year we are changing the way that we name the positions. So we used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with 1, 2, 3 being up the right field side and 4, 5, 6 being up the left field side. So now we are going to change those, spelling out the word Hawks. So up the right side is going to be B, then H, and then A, and then up the left side is going to be W and K and S. So that when we do our sound off, it's going to be B, H, A, W, K, S. And then the right field spotter will say right side. The left field spotter will say left side, and then we can say Blackhawk defense. So just like we did in the last practice when I was out there in Austin. So that's part number one. Number two will be now going over the positions. So that front short position on right field, that's the B position. So, and they play somewhere between 80 and 85 feet. So we'll change that depending upon, on the slower fields, we'll move that person up. On faster fields, we'll move that person back a little bit. It just depends upon the speed of the field. But that person is responsible, and I've drawn lines, so I've got my little diagram for those of you that can't see it, but for those of you that can, I've got my little diagram here of the field and the foul line. And so in that B position, you are responsible from everything all the way up to the foul line, from the 1 all the way to the 5 there in right field, even crossing over that center line a little bit. So because remember, you have help on the other side. So, on ones, you can really charge in and get in there really, really fast because you've got backup coming from the other side, so that you can try to get in there quick and cover that ball on a short one. So from the W position on the other side, okay? So, but you need to be responsible for everything from the 1 all the way to the 5 and right. And then in the diagram, I put it in here, when you're going, so you line up in what would be called a 3. So when the ball comes out in the 3, which is the power alley and right, that position, you would stay right there. But in the 4 and the 5, you would actually drift farther back towards the base. I didn't draw bases on here, but I can right now. So, ooh, that wasn't quite so round, but that's okay. So you would go basically directly at the base on those harder hit balls. All right, so that is the B position. A little bit of the other side of the 1, being aggressive inside, and then all the way over to the 5. And on those 5s, you can drift back all the way back to, say, like the base area and that sort of thing. And then, of course, lots of communication. All right, so, and I'm just going to kind of alternate back and forth to go deeper and deeper and deeper. All right, so that's the B position. Now, the short position on left field side is the W. And the W is going to basically kind of do just the reverse. So still crossing over the 1 to the other side of the 1, but behind the B position. and covering all the way to the 5 in left field. And same thing, being able to drift back and going a little bit behind the base in left field as they are coming back. Okay. And so on the ones, the B person really needs to be the aggressive person, and the W person needs to come in behind them. And if the B person overruns it, then they can say, "Buy me," and the W position can pick up the ball. So, and then we'll get into more even on top of that, right? So I hope that makes sense in through there. So that's our W position. So your primary responsibility is all of that area up front. And the W position is going to be somewhere around 90 to 95 feet, somewhere in that ballpark, depending upon the speed of the fields and how we see fit. All right, back over to the right field side. So now we get to the H position, which basically is straight up center field. That's where we play that position in our standard defense. I will talk about shifts in another video, but the H position is straight smack in the middle of the field. Now we might move that person a step or two one way or the other, depending upon who's at the plate, especially if there's somebody that has a tendency to hit the ball into right field. We might move that position just a couple steps more into right field, but for the most part, that position is dead straightaway center at about 120 to 125 feet. And that H position, their responsibility is all the way is getting over to that 2 in left field so that you're backing up the W there. Going a little bit deeper if you're going to kind of sneak over for the 3 on the edge of the 3 in the left field. And then all the way over to the 5 on that right field line, backing up the B position so that you're covering all that territory as well as communicating. So important for everybody to communicate, because sometimes you may not get a good jump on the play and you're not going to be in there, and you can, call for help for somebody else. But good communication is going to be key, but you've got to focus on the, covering the B positions back, as well as on the ones that are short. You're going to have the B going up, moving forward. You're going to have the W coming over and backing up the B. That H position needs to move forward too and back up the W, especially when we're playing on fast fields where the ball just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. It's very easy to misjudge how fast the ball is coming out. So B going up front, W going behind them, and the H creeping forward behind that and listening for the W to say, "Buy me, help," things like that. Okay, that's the H position. The K position over in left field is responsible for, so this person is basically in the 4 in left field so that they're over the shoulder of the W. And their primary responsibility is covering that left field line for all the right-hand batters that pull the ball down that line. So, but they also need to cover, the 3, 4, and 5 in left field. And they need to cover the W's back in that 3 especially, and moving forward and getting up there and covering that, the W's back. And that way the H can come across and cover that 3 position in a little bit deeper position. So, and then having a little bit of room to drift back a little bit towards the line when you're covering the 5. But basically that K position is fairly small. It's focused on 3, 4, 5. That's your primary responsibility, is focusing on that. Whereas the other positions we've talked about so far have got much wider range of coverage. All right, that's the K position. Then we jump back over to the right field side, and now we're in the A, the outfielder position in right. So this outfielder position in right, in that A position, takes the short line all the way over on all ones. All one calls, they need to cover the one from one side of the field to the other, and all the way over to the right field side of the 5. So the whole entire one, and then the 2, 3, 4, 5 in right. And they can go back. They got all that territory to cover over there. So they got lots of ground to cover. And then the H and the A need to communicate on the 4s and 5s. If the H doesn't think they have a shot at it and it's going pretty quick, they need to holler out, "By me," or what have you, to let the A person have the green light to go after it, to let them know that they are out of the play. So, and or even in the same responsibility, that H person needs to tell the A person that they got it. Like if the ball is dying shortly past the B and they're coming in to go get it in a 4-5, that H person needs to communicate to the A person that they've got the ball. Now, the one tricky part about this A position is on the other side of the field, when things are hitting to left, when a 2 is called in left field, that A position needs to go back and try to cover the 2 deep and see if they can get over there. They need to take a deep line way back and try to get behind the S and try to cover that 2 position deep. That's their responsibility. I don't expect anything big to be happening, but just in case, that should be where that A person goes, is deep behind the S on the left field 2 calls. Okay, and all this goes off of the spotter. All of the initial movement goes off of whatever the spotter says. If somebody changes the call on the field, it defaults to whatever the spotter called it at first. We can't change on the fly. So whatever the spotter calls it first is how we're going to move, and then we just continue the play like that. So I'll go over that scenario kind of as I finish this. All right. So A is responsibility. It's everything in front of them from the entire 1 all the way over to the 5 and right. And on 2s in left field to go deep and cover the left fielder's back on the 2. So now the last position is the S, the outfielder in left field. Oh, excuse me, one more time. Back over to the A. That A person stands in the 2 in right field. And they are typically around 135 to 140 feet, roughly. Sometimes we will move that person more into right field, depending upon who's at the plate and things like that. But primarily, they stay right there in that 2 position. So if a 2 is called by the right field spotter, that ball's coming right pretty close to at you. All right, now the S. S position is the outfielder in left. They are pretty much right in the power alley in left field, right at a dead 3. Basically right behind the W, but a lot deeper, because that person plays at anywhere between 140 and 150 feet. So just depending upon how we're setting up the defense. So, and your primary responsibility is to cover the 2, 3, 4, and 5 in left field, and everything deeper than that. So that's your primary responsibility, and to cover the back of the K position in front of you. That's your primary responsibility. On the 1 calls that are straight up the middle, your responsibility in this S position is to go deep and back up the A position on the other side, so that you go all the way back there and cover that deep and take a nice big angle and give them lots of room and listen for a call for help, like "by me" and that sort of thing. So once again, not always going to happen a whole lot, but you never know. People miss bases and all that sort of thing, but you got to move and you got to get over there to cover that deep 1 position on a 1 call. So, and I will repeat myself again. Once again, it matters on what the spotter originally said, not if anybody changes the call. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Go back and review if you need to. I don't want to repeat it. This is all recorded, so just rewind and start over and go through the whole thing. All right. So just as an example, if a spotter, say the left field spotter calls a 1, but it goes by the W and the H, and one of the two W, and the W or the H actually calls out a 2. It doesn't mean that now the S takes a line in. The S still needs to play back like like they're playing a 1. They still need to drop back because they're not going to hear that 2 until they're already dropping back. And that A needs to try to come across and cut that off the best that they can. So that's just simply how it goes. So our spotters are great. So bad calls don't happen very often. So it's all a matter of using the ears. But the big key with all of this is teamwork, communication, and talking to your teammates. And especially when we're in places like Chicago, but in all reality, all the time, you need to be moving. Your first step should be lateral, except for the 2 players up in front, except for the B and the W. They might be taking their first step forward, but everybody else, their first step should be lateral. And then their next step might be forward. So, but you always want to be trying to move forward if you know the ball is going to be slow and not necessarily going to get to you, so that you cut it off and try to get it before the base runner actually gets to the plate. Okay, that is the #1 key. So we need to be backing each other up so that at the end of the play, you are within arm's reach of the player that is actually in front of you. So I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of the key, is moving in that direction so that we can cut the ball off in a shorter period of time. On faster fields, it might not be so much that way, but at the same time, we want to focus on playing the fields that we are on, and when they are slower fields, trying to move forward. So if you have any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Jono or something like that. But I want everybody to have a better understanding of what everybody's responsibility is out on the field in every position, so that no matter where you're playing and or no matter who's around you, you know what their responsibility is and you know what your responsibility is. And so that you are making sure that you're taking care of your responsibility and you're helping out your teammates to take care of their responsibility. So I will do future videos on other topics, like when we do our shifts and things like that, so that you can look at those too. But this is the one on our standard defensive set. So hope you like it. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to seeing everybody soon.